Hi guys, and hello from the hilltop. I'm Waxahachie Blue, and I want to welcome you to my channel, The Plateau Perfectionist. So today's video is my 2021 setup video. I will be using a blank Amanda Rach Lee dot journal for this year, and I just kind of wanted to give you a little show of it. Not too much, because I know several people have already done, kind of reviews of it. But I did want to at least show you what some of the pages that I will be doing. So for one thing that I decided to do these cover pages. While I adore the sketches and stuff that are on the front pages, I really wanted to make this bullet journal my own, so I decided to do my sigil there, the Plateau Perfectionist, and then I also did this Waxahachie Blue page on separate pages so I could stick them in on these pages. I'm sorry I don't have video of those. They took forever to do, especially all the florals. So I wanted to kind of show you what they look like, but I didn't go into great detail about the coloring. I did that on other pages. So my first couple pages, this blank one here will be my key page, very similar to what I did on my other bullet journal. I did split it up just a smidge and use two sticky notes just to kind of break up the space a little bit. While I enjoyed my key on my other one, I decided to spread out my wording a little bit. And then my other page here, aka page 1, and the back side of it will be my index pages. These two were done, just very simply with just some basic colors, which I will get into in a little more detail later. And then I also added just a little, scribblies, squabblies, abstract type doodles in places just to kind of fill up the space. So the reason I did two index pages like this is so that's how I wanted to use this first dot page. If you've noticed in several of the basic dot journals, regardless of the brand that they are, so it's not just designated to the Amanda Rach Lee. I also had this issue in my Techacore as well. The glue seam where the blank white pages meet the dot pages, there's a bit of a stick to it. So that's why I wanted to just use this as an index page. So if it doesn't have to be 100% uber special. But yes. So onto the color scheme. So the colors I decided to use for these pages are very gray and neutral. I did this for two reasons. One, these are pages that I will be referencing again and again, so I wanted to just kind of have them in a very neutral palette. I did do some artistry, like right here I'm drawing a rose for a quote page I decided to add in. But another reason I decided to go with a neutral palette is because of what I will be doing in regards to the entire color palette of this particular bullet journal. So I have decided to do a color challenge, and this is a personal challenge for myself. Basically, I've been thinking of this for months now. I've actually decided to do this back in July, August of 2020. But I was basically having some trouble thinking up different spread, styles and if I wanted to draw all of my things compared to using stickers and washi tape or, scrapbooking paper. Because if you've watched any of my other bullet journal videos, I am all over the map when it comes to what I put in my bullet journals. So I decided to kind of rein it in a little bit this particular year. And I am doing a color challenge in that every single month will be a different color. So I wanted to go with a very neutral tone for my basic pages here at the beginning, such as my index, my quote pages, some trackers that I will be using year round, goal pages, etc. And then for January, I'll be doing a specific color, February, same thing, all the way through the entire year. And it will end up being, lack of a better term, a rainbow. So and I wanted to do it that way so I could, as long as it is of that particular color scheme, I can do whatever I want. If I want to draw something in specific that I really want to include in my spread, I can do that. I can do the same thing with lots of my stickers and washi, which I have an abundance of if you've seen my stationery hauls. And it also gives me an excuse to really go outside of the box per se. I mean, as long as it falls into the color scheme, I can use just about anything and everything that I want, and that was really inspirational to me. So that is what I will be doing for the entirety of the year. However, in the meantime, since I did have some cover pages that I was going to be doing, like I said, this quote page and the other trackers that I will be using year round, I wanted to keep them very neutral. So if you want to go with a rainbow theme for the whole entire planner, this is kind of the gray neutral clouds that the rainbow will appear from. As cheesy as that sounds, that is what was going through my brain. So the quote that I decided to go with on this particular page was by a gentleman named Mark Manson. He's written some books, which I had listened to an audiobook. Please pardon the language that I'm about to use, but the title of the book is The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F word. But I really loved this particular quote that he had. It was, if every project I started failed and every post I wrote went unread, I would only be back exactly where I started, so why not try? And as a particular person who does this kind of bullet journaling and my Instagram and all, I do this for fun. I do this because I love my spreads that I come up with, and I want to share them with as many people as I can so that they can feel inspired and they can get into bullet journaling and enjoy it as much as I do. That's basically my mantra for this year is, even if nobody likes what I put out, I at least put it out there. And if people like it, wonderful. If you don't, then by all means keep on going and feel inspired in other ways. So why not try? Another thing that I decided to incorporate this particular go around was a grid spacer page. I actually did a double spread. I noticed when I was looking at other people's grid pages and things, they were all one page. And while I really do appreciate, and some of them looked very nice, I have a tendency to get a little confused on my math skills. My math skills are not that great. It was not my best subject growing up. So I decided to do a 2-page grid spacing spread. I spaced out all of the verticals on one page and all the horizontals on another, as well as how many, what would be a good standard grid size if I went for either a 1-page calendar or a 2-page calendar, in which in the Amanda Rach Lee, a 1-page calendar would need to be at least a 3x3 square, and then for a 2-page calendar, and this is to include spaces between each box, it would be a 5x5 with some wiggle room around to spare for doodles and whatnot. I also did a grid math out of how many, because the vertical space is only so much, but it is, I believe, 27 spaces on one page, so I also numbered that out on the second page. That's why there's 2 lines of horizontal numbers. I'm sorry if I'm getting you confused. And then I also highlighted, what each chunk of space would do. To be fair, I did do a grid spacer, and I usually actually put them in the back of my journal. They're usually the last page in my journal, just because I honestly forgot to just put it in my decor, so that's where it ended up. And to be fair, that works. It works for me. If I need to, I can just flip back and refer to it, and we're all good and fine and hunky-dory. But I decided to make it a more prominent feature in this particular bullet journal, since I was doing it in 2 pages. And then, and I highlighted the lines and added a title, and I didn't want to go too fancy, even though there was a lot of negative space. If I decide to math out anything else, I will have space to do that on these 2 pages. Speaking of the colors that I used, I already mentioned that they were very gray and neutral, and that's all fine and good. As for the markers that I used a Crayola Super Tip in the gray. I used my gray Kuretake dot marker, as well as a Zebra Mildliner brush pen in gray. And then, and then I had this kind of neutral blue color. It really shows blue on this camera, so that's, I guess you can call it a neutral navy, maybe. It added just a little bit of color, just especially for like my florals and things, but I consider it a neutral, so we just went with it. Future log! Everybody needs a future log. I don't know about you, but I use my future log a lot. When it comes to things that I put on my future log, this doesn't just include birthdays or specific holidays. I like to write out not just the holidays that are, but also the holidays that my office is closed for my full-time job, as well as paydays and specific events that, happen consistently on the same day. For example, there's a specific meeting that happens in our office. It happens every second Thursday, unless it is moved. So I can pretty much, once I have the confirmation that will stay that way for 2021, I can go ahead and mark those down on my future log. It really does come in handy. I refer to this thing all year round, but for right now, just because I'm setting everything up, I left it blank, and I fast forward through writing all those numbers. I find writing the numbers therapeutic. If you don't, by all means, do the stamps. I just don't want to go down the rabbit hole of stamps. So this is something that I had in my Techacore setup, but I swapped it around just a little bit now that I figured out a formula of how I want this particular two spreads to look. The first one here is my student loan goals page. I was a college student. I'm not anymore. And in the past few years, I have been paying off my student loans. This particular year, knock on wood, I hope to have my student loans paid off. Like I said, knock on wood. By the time 2020 will be over, I will have about $12,000 left in my student loans. My goal is to have them paid off by the end of 2021. That's $1,000 a month. The way my personal finances go, this is definitely a possibility. So I'm really, really hoping that I can get them paid in the year. I want them done. I want them gone. So that is why the column goes all the way to 12K, and I'm hoping that that's my big goal for the year. As for the rest of my finances, I have a couple of savings accounts. I have some smaller subscriptions that I do like to subscribe to, such as a specific charity, Hulu, Disney, etc., as well as a retirement fund called Acorn. Not sponsored, I promise it's not sponsored, but by all means, if you have Acorn, hopefully you love it. If you don't, I highly recommend that you look into it because it is great. In a nutshell, Acorn is a retirement savings app that I have on my phone. It costs me about $3 to $5 to subscribe to it a month. And what you can do is basically set it and forget it to put money into specific accounts, such as either investing your money or putting them into something of the equivalent of a IRA, which I do. I have it basically set it and forget it. And so that's why at the bottom of the bills and savings page, I actually have it set up so I can, I have these little code numbers, which is an ILST, which stands for invest later, which is the IRA. There is also a spending where you can do, you can have like it's basically an emergency bank card, as it only has as much money as I put in it, which I keep roughly about $50 on, just, for that emergency tank of gas when all other cards fail and you're out of cash. And then the T for total, and I have that set for, I actually have a total at the bottom of each 6 months to just kind of see what my grand totals are as I progress through this year. And then, of course, I did this little doodle in the corner. I think it's absolutely adorable. Just some nice light flowers, just to keep it, I didn't want just plain boxes with a lot of negative space. I wanted to add a little more doodles this time around than I did last time. Okay, so on to the next spread. The next spread is my goals page. So my goals are a little different than they were last year. Last year, I had a lot of goals. I decided to have like 3 to 4 goals per, I think, 4 different things? No, 8 different things. I had 8 different types of goals, and I had a lot of goals. And to be completely honest, I finished quite a few of them. Some of them did end up being canceled or no-goes due to the pandemic, such as going for a few places for my birthday. I was going to go to a comic book convention in May. Bang went that theory. But anyway, so this year my goals are a lot less, but I am also leaving plenty of room to add more as I think of them as we get into 2021. In the meantime, I also wanted to include another quote page. This particular doodle was supposed to kind of be a mirror to go with the quote phrase, which is, if you're searching for that person that will change your life, take a look in the mirror. No, I do not have the person that wrote this quote. I actually stole it off of an Instagram quote thing that I follow. But anyway, I thought it was a really good quote to put with the goals page because, who is going to achieve these goals? You are. So just remind yourself, if you're going to set goals for the new year, which I always highly encourage setting goals because I'm a goal-oriented person, so that works for me. But, who's going to achieve these? You are. So you need to remind yourself, if you're searching for the person that will change your life and get these goals done, remember to look in a mirror. Even if your hair isn't combed and you're in serious need of a shower. So my goals, I did set this page up very similar to my goals page in my previous plan with me, but the boxes are slightly different. So for the goal sections, quote unquote, I did go with some financial goals, which is like getting my student loans paid off for this particular year. I have some spiritual goals because I didn't get all of those particular goals finished in 2020, as well as some for my career, some self-care goals, and then fun and home, which is basically I took a couple of the goal styles from last year's and merged them into home and fun. And then, of course, my boxes had to have a drop shadow because you can't have boxes without a drop shadow. Added some washi tape, again, neutral tones, and then, of course, I left this blank so I can fill it out in more detail later. Speaking of goals, something that I did not include last year that I wanted to include this year was almost like a brain dump page for my goals. So there was 4 different questions that I was really thinking on when I was deciding my goals. That was places that I would like to go, things that I would like to do, things that I would like to learn, and then long-term goals that I would like to accomplish faster. I do have in a separate binder that I keep, just kind of to myself. I have a goals list that's not just yearly goals, but a 5-year list and a 10-year list. So, long-term goals that I would like to finish or accomplish faster. If I think of something that I know I can't get done in a year, but I could potentially get done in maybe 5 years, or a 10-year goal that I could potentially get done in maybe 3 to 5 years, I would put it here. So, like I said, this is just kind of a dump page for my brain. If there's something that I know I would really like to do, but I don't think of it until, July, I can put it here. So, this also includes places that I might want to go, conventions that might come up in the next year or so. For example, D23, which is a Disney convention. I believe it only happens every other year. I personally would like to go to that this year, but with the pandemic doing what it's doing, that may not happen. So I might put that in my places I'd like to go for 2023, which that would be kind of cool. D23 in 2023, you know they're going to do something special for it. It's Disney. They're always going to have an excuse to do something special for it. In the meantime, I just added some extra scribbly squibbles, abstract doodles just to kind of fill the space. And like I said, this is a dump page. It's gonna look weird. It's gonna look crazy hectic by the time I'm done filling it out over the 2021 year. So if it looks a little hectic, just go with it. It's a dump page. You're supposed to dump your thoughts on it. Who heck cares if it looks cohesive? Alrighty. So let's do a quick little close-up just so you can kind of see it in a little more detail. Pardon my handwriting. Like I said, it was supposed to be a dump page. It's not going to look 100% pretty like my other ones do. And then we're going to move on. So another thing that I wanted to add in for this particular year that I didn't have last year was books that I've read this year. One of my goals is to read at least more nonfiction books than fiction books this year. I have been slacking on my reading. I really have. A lot of people took this year to get in a lot of reading. I personally wanted to focus on more getting myself together financially. So something that I would like to do is to read some more. I need to get back into that good habit. It's a good habit for your brain, and it's something that I love to do, especially if I have the spare time. So I basically drew these shelves. They are completely and totally blank. And then as I read books, I will draw a book and fill it in. Hopefully these particular shelves will be full of books. And it'll just be, books. If not, then by the end of the year, if I still have some space, I may add a few doodles, like a potted plant or something like that. I will make this particular spread look much better, but in the meantime, I just wanted some basic blank shelves. Something else that I was looking into that I didn't have last year, which I thought was a really good idea because I am terrible at memory. My memory really is terrible, hence why I have a bullet journal, was a when did I last spread. So think about it. When was the last time you replaced your toothbrush? When was the last time you bought some new socks because your other ones are totally holy? When was the last time you got new deodorant? So this is what this particular spread is. It's basically if I have an item that I know has an expiration date, such as a toothbrush, I can write that down. I can write, how long it's supposed to last. When was the last time I replaced it? Would I buy the same product again? And then I also added a what did I replace it with? So if I buy a specific type of toothbrush and I absolutely hate it, what was the type of toothbrush that I bought to replace it? So that's what this particular spread is for. It's very simple, very minimal, but we'll see how it goes over the year. On to the second to last spread that I have for this particular thing. This one was actually one of the most useful spreads that I put in my tech decor. It was my password list. I don't know about you, but I forget my passwords all the time. And while the all-knowing Google does save my passwords, since I transition a lot between my home computer and my work computer, where I don't like to keep some of my more personal passwords, I decided to write them in a password list in my tech decor from last year. However, I ran out of room. I ended up doing a 2-page spread for my password list this year because I really did. I filled up an entire page. Even though they're written in code and all that good stuff, I ran out of room. And I had them on a bunch of sticky notes slapped in another on my password page. So hence why I did it in 2 pages for this particular spread. I also added an additional column of when did I last reset the password. So if it's something that I am constantly, forgetting, when or it hasn't been reset in a while, I now know when was the last time I reset it. And then this particular spread I left it completely blank because I don't want to give away all of my ideas. But this actually came in really handy last year, and I will show it to you in more detail in my walkthrough at the end of December when I show you my whole bullet journal. But it's just a couple of blank pages for YouTube ideas. So here's our final flip through of the bullet journal 2021. Just wanted to kind of show you again. I did a very basic key. I did a 2-page index with a quote that really inspires me by Mark Manson. Go read his books. He says the F word a lot, but it's worth it. My grid spacer, and then of course my goals page and my future log. I got them backwards. My future log next, and then my goals page with my savings tracker, because again I am totally out of sync on the order of these pages. My student loan goals, my bills and savings. Now we're to the goals page, along with my quote page. I'm so sorry. My goals dump page, and then we're getting into the extra pages that I didn't have in my last. My books I've read, when did I last, my password list, and my YouTube ideas. Alright guys, I want to thank you so much for watching my video today. I would love a like, a subscribe, by all means leave me a comment, and also you can find me on these other platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and then my website, theplateauperfectionist.com.